All right, folks, welcome back. This is our weekend commentary. I felt like I should get it out a little bit early because, number one, I'm going to be celebrating the Independence Day on Sunday. And I don't want to be inundated with all of the trials and tribulations that these videos, productions, cause for me. So we have removed another leaker tonight. And I'm aware that the person has another account in 401b. So I will eventually get you. Going forward, the lessons will be a little bit more shorter, but there'll be something each day. So I want you to focus primarily on the learning and not on what I've spoiled you with up until now, which is like, this is where the market's going to go next. This is where the market's going to go next. So if you're in here just for that, it's probably going to be a little annoying for you because I'm not going to do it as frequently as I've done it in the past. There's a lot of content I want to get through, so let's get through that and then we can relax and go back to talking about what's going to happen because it's important for you to get through it. We have the volume imbalance here on the daily chart. I said we would likely have that as an upside draw. It didn't need to completely fill it. It could come up there and hit the consequent encroachment level, which it did rather handsomely today. Or just hit the bottom discount low. But non-farm payroll pumped it up into consequent encroachment, completely random level. I say that with my tongue in cheek. And then we have the market trade back down into this small little fair value gap right there. So that's an interesting little area for it to rebalance to. I'm not going to go back through all this. So I want to go into the details here a little bit. Drop down to the hourly chart. Hourly fair value gap in here. We left that and we created another small little fair value gap there. It traded back down into that on the 1st of July, Thursday. And rallied back up into the discount low of the volume imbalance on the daily chart. That's this low here, or level rather. And this is the high of that daily volume imbalance. And the midpoint of that range is consequent encroachment. Beautiful delivery. Look at that. Non-farm payroll pumped it up into that particular level right there. And then it breaks down, consolidates, trades aggressively lower again, attacking sell side liquidity, and a small little volume imbalance in there. You see that? Draws right back down into that. Now, I haven't had a chance to get caught up with emails because they come in like a flood every day, and it's going to be a long time before I get caught up. But I saw a lot of the email headers coming in, and they're just basically saying, you know, this week was an eye-opener for them. They saw a lot of things click, and they're just really appreciative of what they're learning and what they're seeing. And what I'm basically proving that these markets are algorithmic. They're not supply and demand. They're not buying and selling pressure. They're very specific, intricate things that deliver these prices. And it quickly unravels the myth of the markets are random or the markets are controlled by traders buying and selling. No, they're not. That's the lie. That's the big rouge, if you will. They make you believe that because they indoctrinate you with all this fluff information. And then once you strip it away, which is very difficult sometimes for me as a mentor because some of you come here with a lot of preconceived ideas that this is what I believe works. Or if you made money with it, it's even worse. And I made money with things that had no real bearing on why the market did what it did. But it certainly feels like that's the reason why, right? Like last time your elbow ached and you bought a lottery ticket with the birth date of your oldest kid, you won. And therefore, your elbow's aching again, and what are you going to do? You want to go spend money again with that same idea, and you lose money. So it's human nature to have those kind of little quirky little viewpoints, but there's nothing quirky about what you're learning here. And it's coveted. People want this information, and they're doing very crazy things to get to it. And I'm hoping that we can get through the rest of this year's content without any more interruptions, but kind of expect it. And I just want to take a minute real quick just to thank you all for your patience, because there is a lot of fraud. There's a lot of undeserving folks out there that sell education, and many times it's my stuff just repackaged. And it would be very easy for you to say, you know what, this is not worth dealing with all this stuff here, that it shouldn't be like this. Well, you're right, it shouldn't be like this, but I have old friends that want me to stop talking. I have a lot of people that want to get back in that can't, and a lot of people that I make angry because I call them out publicly as frauds, and they can't do what I do. So I just want to remind you all that I'm very appreciative. My family, my staff, all my helpers that help me run this, they're all appreciative of your patience too, because it'd be very easy for you to say, you know what, this guy's got a lot of server problems. I got to get out of here. If I would have had all these things occurring in my first year, it would have been a disaster. But a lot of you have been here for a long time now, and a new group that just came in, I'm very thankful for, because it's a testimony to your faith and trust in me as your mentor. Because if it was anybody else with Mickey Mouse level analysis and track record, you probably would have ran out the door and said, I'm not going to put up with this. But I do my best to keep things going. I do my best to try to protect your investment and my investment as well. And it's not without misery. Okay, it's a lot of time, a lot of energy doing it, and it's a labor of love, let's put it that way. So I want you to know that I greatly appreciate all of your patience, because you could be lighting up my email and driving my staff crazy with, hey, when's this going to get fixed? When's that going to get fixed? We had a couple emails come in about, hey, look, you promised a video every day this week. Well, I did every day this week except for Thursday. And I made it very clear why I didn't do it. But I got an email from someone that says they're a member, but I get the impression that it's probably someone that buys it from a reseller, because it was a really callous email stating that I'm making up something about a friend or a former girlfriend is what it was. And they didn't die from the vaccine. Well, this young lady's a aerobics, aficionado. She's straight up built very, very well. She's healthy, and she's always taking care of herself. But she was in pursuit of going into Johns Hopkins pediatric autistic department, and they want to make every single person there take the vaccine, and it's a requirement. And my mother actually was working in one of the it's like a little store where you can go in and buy like the newspaper or things, like if you're a patient, snacks and such. She ran the store for them. And when they told her that she had to get the vaccine, she's like, I gotta go, see you later. She quit. But Robin, who I'm referring to as an old friend of mine, she took the second dose of the Moderna, and it caused her brain to swell up, and it caused her heart to inflame, and she passed away. So I found out on Thursday, and just unsettled me. So you guys can think about vaccines all you want. I know I have physicians in here that will, hiss and want to shake me and say, I'm wrong about this, I'm wrong about that. Look, it's hard to argue with my own personal experience with my youngest son, and now someone that was in my life, at a younger age, but still, you can't argue with it, okay? And it's going on more than you realize. It's being suppressed. So as a reminder to you all, if you think that this stuff's healthier for you, that's your decision. I'm personally, and this is the last time I'm going to say it, I am personally never taking that. It's never going to happen, period. And I'm okay with being a hermit. They can tell me I can't go somewhere. That's fine. I have everything I need in my houses. Everything. I have a bowling alley in my home. So I have everything that you'd ever want. And I would never need to leave it. Okay? So I don't want to sound like I'm preaching anti-vax, because it might come across like that. But for those that might think that, just know that there's hundreds of you here that are asking me to touch on this stuff. And I was going to go on SoundCloud. I think it's SoundCloud. I can't remember what the name of the thing is, the app. I have some audio things on it. I was going to do like a discussion there, but I really just don't want my stuff out there publicly. Like they're really active about censoring people and coming after people and giving them all kinds of grief because they talk like this. So I just don't want to do it. I noticed that when I had posted that people should prepare and get food and supplies for their home, I lost 8,500 subscribers on my YouTube channel in 24 hours. So that's why I'm not talking about it anymore there, even in the community tab. So the excuse YouTube said was, we got rid of some of your spam accounts that were following you. Well, how is it that within 48 hours they all came back? So that was like, I guess, a little warning. Shut up. Stop talking about those things, or we're going to do this to your channel or do that to your channel. So to keep from losing that platform, I'm just going to play by the rules and color inside their lines. But in here, I'll say whatever I want to say. But I know some of you are taking some of my videos and splicing out some of the things I'm saying because you think they're inspirational. I got sent a video, a member, I'm sure here, felt it was decent of them to take out small little portions of what I'm saying that was inspirational but was meant for mentorship only, and put it up there with some kind of music playing in the background. And while I felt it was kind of neat in a way, it's still taking something that you're not supposed to be taking and putting it in the public domain. So I'm sure you meant well, but you're also going to probably see other people take my commentary, like the things I'm talking about, these vaccinations, which they're not medicine at all, and they'll find their way on public forums, and I don't want that. So I'm probably just going to talk about it in text. I'll post on the forum and chit chat like that, but I'm not going to spill the beans on what I believe. Not that I'm right, because I don't know. But everything else I've been calling since 2016, it's pretty much on point. And I kind of want to use that to segue into, I don't know what July's going to bring us. So I want you to know that there's no clear view on what I think is going to happen over the next week or two. I don't know. I know that they're having a drill that is supposed to mock the supply chain attack that they're making a drill for, and cyber Polygon, I think that's what it is. They're announcing on the 9th of July they're going to be doing this drill. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why am I even talking about this? Get on with the commentary. Well, this is the commentary. This is the things that, as a trader, I'm concerned about. Because if the grid goes down, if the power goes down, or if there's some kind of a disruption, you can't trade. You're not going to have connection. You're not going to have the servers at the brokerage running. Like, that's the reality of this. So if you're sitting there rolling your eyes thinking, oh, this, again, you want to understand everything, and you want to have this perspective that I have. I mean, that's why you're here. You felt it was enough for you to incline your ear and pay the fee to be here. So I'm telling you the things that I'm concerned about, the things I'm watching. And every single time there's been a drill, and you don't take my word for this, you research this yourself, okay? Don't just listen to what I'm saying and nod your head and say, yeah, ICT said this, or I believe it. Don't do that. Not with anything I say. Don't take it for face value. look into it and see if what I'm saying is true. Because once you start digging in, you'll be convinced rather quickly that there's teeth behind this, okay? The Boston Marathon bombing, that was actually a drill. And there's recordings, and there was friends of mine that were running in it. And they were there, and they heard somebody go across the loudspeaker and say, okay, you're going to hear a loud boom. It's just all part of the drill. And boom, something blew up. And you can literally go on there and look at people that were crisis actors. And one gentleman is being rolled across the street in a wheelchair, and it's supposed to be his prosthetic leg all tore up, but the whole leg falls off, and they hurry up and pick it up, and they're laughing. Even the guy with his leg supposedly blown off, he's laughing on film when it was a live cut. But that has been hidden on the internet, but you can still find it in certain places. That was a drill. They had done all kinds of mock drills, like this whole COVID thing in October of 2019. That was a drill. How were we going to respond globally to a pandemic, a viral infection that runs rampant throughout the world? Well, that drill went live in October of 2019. Isn't it ironic that the Wuhan lab started having problems in October 2019 and didn't really start to surface until December 2019? And I started telling everybody in January, get ready. This is, we need to be worrying about this, get food, get things for your home. And everybody was laughing at me. Remember all that stuff? Every time a big event and they call it a drill, it's actually a live exercise and event. That's what it is. Okay. So does that mean on the 9th of July that the grid's going to go down? There's going to be nationwide blackouts, in the U.S. or wherever? I don't know. But I'm prepared in case it does. And if it does, how long does it happen? How long does it involve our discomfort and, disruption? I don't know those answers. I don't know that. I don't know. But I do want to be prepared in that event. And a couple days ago, friends of mine from New York were telling me that they were putting out reports saying that they were asking businesses to consider turning off their low priority drains on the grid for electricity. And then later on they said, okay, we're telling you to do it. That just to me seems like they're the warning signs, like they're the contractions in a woman's labor where you're like, something's coming. Okay. And literally, if you don't have a way of running things like your refrigerator or your freezer, if you have things like, I have several freezer chests and refrigerators full of things, and I have individual solar and gas powered generators on the ready in case we do get a grid down situation or a blackout that lasts for a week conveniently to spoil everybody's food. That's what I see coming. And it may not happen on the 9th of July. It might happen before, or it might happen in August. Okay. But I think that's a potential. And they're always saying that, these hacks are occurring. And I'm getting hacked. Okay. It's happening. So if you're not prepared and doing the things that you need to do, if things like this do occur, you're not going through some severe anxiety attack, okay, and freaking out because you're not going to be able to reach me. Think about it. If the grid goes down, you're not going to be able to email me. I'm not going to be able to be on YouTube. I'll be waiting just like you for things to come back, and then there it is. So if this ever occurs, okay, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does occur, just be patient. I will open up normal modes of communication. First thing I would do is go right to my community tab on YouTube. Period. I'll let everybody know, what they need to do, and then I would post right to the forum. And that's it. And then we would take it from there. But these are concerns that I have, And I'm genuinely concerned because there's a lot of talk about the UK and Eurozone areas that they might be really enforcing this whole you have to have the vaccine or you can't go anywhere. Well, that might fly over there, but if they try to do that here, which they would try to do after it's overseas, they're going to watch the pushback over there when it gets implemented in August or whatever. It comes to the United States, and we're going to see some real shows here. It's going to become the Wild West like you've never seen before, because a lot of people are fed up, and that's going to affect the markets. That's going to affect everything. Everything. Dollar's going to be moving all over the place. Commodities going to be going all over the place. Like it's fixing to come to a real explosive, incendiary environment. And the markets will become skittish because of that. Scared. Okay. And it'll create knee-jerk reactions to things on the news wires. And it'll create these sudden bursts of excitement and then reversals. And that's the type of volatility that's probably coming. So that's why it's important for you to know these things. That's why, even if you don't believe it, if you don't think it's ever going to happen, okay, well, like I said, in 2019, something wicked was coming, and it's going to be worse than 9/11. September 11th, 2001. That changed a lot of things. And we're still seeing those things working towards an agenda. And it's just meant to be control of absolute control of everyone, not just Americans, but everywhere. And if you don't like it, too bad, because they're going to put their boot on your neck whether you like it or not. So being prepared and having these ideas that may be in the offing, just be aware of it. Because if you're anticipating that it might happen, but not living in fear because it could, because I'm not fearful of it. I'm not having anxiety about it because I've made myself as best I can prepared. Some of you probably can't, and I know that. But you just do what you can. Okay? That's it. You try to get alternative power, a generator or a solar generator. I got one of them off of Amazon a couple months back, and it's pretty neat. It allows you to run a refrigerator, and you can charge it up in 4 hours in the sun with these big solar panels, but you can't keep it out there in the rain or snow or anything like that. It would damage them. So you have to have an alternative. So I have several gas and several solar, and they're not cheap, but it's just a peace of mind knowing that that's what it is. But all of these factors, if they come to light and materialize, that's going to cause some real problems, and the markets will have to digest that. And I don't know what their reactions and manipulations would be on the central bank level, because nobody's been here before. It's like last year, I did very, very little trading with live funds because I didn't know what to do. I didn't trust my own tools. I didn't trust what I've been doing my whole life. So when you have these potential events or environments where it's kind of like the rules go out the window, you have to prepare for that and treat it like a non-farm payroll or treat it like a FOMC rate announcement, just on an extended basis where it just keeps going on for days or maybe in a week or two. If we do see a grid down situation, I think that it would be utilized long enough to impact people that have put food back for emergencies. So I think that states like Texas and Florida will be targeted, and how we see their response, we're going to be blamed for this and that, and they're going to blame Russia, they're going to blame China, And they're already giving all these constant storylines that aren't really catching a lot of attention in the markets yet, but they will. And what do I mean by that? China and Russia, supposedly, if you believe what our media in the U.S. is putting out, which, who knows what's really going on. I don't watch their news, but I see articles, okay, and I read articles. And I just look at the headlines. I don't need to read the actual body of the articles. And the point is this. The rhetoric that they're putting out in the U.S. is that basically Putin said, mess with us and we're going to destroy you. The United States isn't what they used to be, and we're a laughingstock. And I can imagine how outwardly, looking into our situation as a nation and our quote-unquote leadership now, it's a circus. Like, it's literally a circus. We're like the little car with a dozen clowns packed in it. That's the U.S. right now. It's shameful. And China basically said, they would bash in the heads of anyone that wants to challenge or, make a run on China. So, isn't it interesting that you're hearing those types of rhetoric coming from the two other large superpowers? In the United States is now in this weakened, wimpy little, distracted with all these things, internal strife, and it's a mess here, okay? And if we're ever going to be attacked as a nation, it's in this state right now, in this environment where we have so many things going on, and they're going to be able to blame Russia. They're going to be able to blame China. And you're probably thinking, man, what is this? Get on with the analysis. This is the analysis. These are factors that will impact the marketplace. I'm letting you know before they start happening, because, like I said, you're starting to see these articles build some foundation. So that way they can always point back to, oh yeah, remember that time back in June or July of 2021 where Russia and China were making hardline stances about this and that about the U.S. Well, I've already told you war is coming. That's coming. And you need to keep your eyes on the Middle East, because that stuff is going to boil over. It's going to boil over, okay? And it's easy for the United States and Americans to say, well, that's over there. It has nothing to do with us. And that is our arrogance speaking, because we think that we're sheltered from all that stuff, and we're not. No nation is. So all these chess pieces are being moved around on the chessboard, because the whole world is a giant chessboard, and they're all being moved around into a position where there's going to be a confrontation, and it's going to kick off. And anyone that is just paying the slightest bit of attention can see it. Like, they can see that, the world right now is a mess. And there's so many things I could literally go on right now and go off into crazy rants about this, that, and other thing. But just know that these are things that are on my mind right now. I'm watching them. They are literally on the front page of my notes. I'm looking through the veil of all these different scenarios and how the markets would likely interpret that, and then try to convey what that means as a student here in the mentorship. And I'm telling you openly, this is challenging. Like, this is very challenging. It doesn't mean that there can't be short-term trading opportunities, because that's going to always be there, which is why I tell you all the time, as a developing student here, don't push aside day trading and scalping, because that's like your lifeline. That's one way you're going to be able to consistently find pips. You'll always be able to find something, at least there. You don't need to know what it's going to do for the full week. You don't need to know what it's going to do over the next 2 days, 3 days for short-term trading. You don't need to know what it's going to do for the whole month. You just got to keep it close to the vest. And honestly, I think that's the best approach right now, because what happens if they say the New York Stock Exchange has been hacked? Think about that. Think about the confidence factor in investors if they say that the NYSE is hacked. Man, like that's financial Armageddon. They're going to be running out of the marketplace. Everybody's going to be selling everything. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying these environments, these climates that we're living in now, that's never been like this. It's exciting, but it's concerning too. Now, I'm not losing sleep. I'm not fearful. I'm not having anxiety attacks or anything like that. But I'm like waiting to see what happens next. Like, this is better than any TV show or movie that I've ever watched, because it's new, it's fresh, and it's terrifying if it starts to build momentum in a direction that none of us really want to see. But that terrible, dreadful situation that comes as a result of all that presents huge financial opportunities in the marketplace. So that's why I don't fear it, because I see this as opportunities. As a trader, droughts are terrible. People lose money, they don't get enough food, and it's bad for the economy. There's not enough taxes because things aren't being sold. It's a big downer for a lot of things. But for a trader, that is a gold mine. That is an opportunity. So therefore, before I learned to be a trader and a commodity trader back in 92, I would have anxiety about something like that. And I'd be worrying, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if I can't get food? And I would be obsessively thinking about those things. Whereas now, I say, okay, they're saying it's a severe drought. Okay, I'm going to watch the crops in agricultural markets. Boom. You sat here with me every week and month over the last year, and I called the huge bull market in grains. Now, if I didn't know how to trade, I would have been worrying every day about how much food's going to cost, because I'd probably be working a job I hated and not have enough money to prepare or whatever. So the markets have changed my perception of things, where how can I take that issue that the world's being forced to deal with and find a way to make money out of that? I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm not causing the drought. I'm not trying to kill the crops myself. I'm not going out there and releasing plagues. I'm a realist, and while I don't create those situations, I'd be a fool not to take advantage of those situations where the uninitiated, the folks that aren't learning how to take these opportunities and finding a way to make money with them, there's a different perception and interpretation of the events that take place on a day-by-day basis in this world. And it's always been that way. And smart money will find a way to monetize everything. And that's what you need to just relax and not worry about, oh my goodness, what happens if this and this and this. That means there's going to be a lot of movement in the marketplace, period. And it doesn't make a difference if it's up or down to me. I'll know what it wants to reach for once it starts to move. That's the comfort level that understanding these things brings you. But anyway, I gave you a long way around, just basically saying I'm going to keep it real close to the vest during the month of July. I don't know what to expect in terms of price delivery, because I don't know. And one of those periods are going to come up again before the end of the year. And I told you, when I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. And you're going to have periods when you're not going to know. When you're not holding ICT's hand and listening to what I'm outlining before it happens here, you're going to have those moments where you just don't know. And you can't force it. You can't push it hard and say, no, I'm going to get in here and just really figure it out. No, you need to relax and wait for the obvious. Right now, I don't know if it's going to continue higher for the dollar. I don't know if it's going to completely collapse and go down below these relative equal lows down here. Okay, it could come up here after taking sell side out here, run up here and completely rebalance and then go lower. Or it could just keep on going right from here, go there, and we have a higher euro and cable market, because seasonally speaking, they tend to start going up around this time. of the year. So just be patient, okay? You don't need to know what's going to happen every week. You need to understand how to trade, because tomorrow's not promised to me. And if something happens to me, and the only thing you've been worrying about is what I think is going to happen next, and not learn how to do the things I'm doing these analysis opinions with, that's the wrong way. And why you're here. You're here to learn how to do this on your own, not be required to hear me tell you what should happen next. So with that said, let's roll on into the 15-minute time frame for dollar. Notice we have this area in here. We'll come back to that in a moment. We rallied above the buy side here and broke down below this short-term low. We'll come back to that in a moment. And notice that we have this little area right in here. You see that? This low, this high. That is your SIBI, sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. Do we anticipate that entire thing closing in? No. Why? Because we have that breaker. Down close candle prior to the higher high running up here. So if you have a SIBI in here, you have to factor in the breaker. Doesn't need to go all the way up through to the top end of that breaker. Once it broke below it here, it trades right back up into the SIBI and into the body of this breaker. But we like to see it trade up to the low and as much as mean threshold. So that's the most sensitive area of the breaker, much like an order block. So it trades up into that and then gives up the ghost, breaks this low, but not before coming up into this little area here. We can see we have another small little fair value gap with what? A bearish order block. So we have that trade in here, and then it aggressively reprices down into this old fair value gap there that we didn't get a complete closure of. See that? But look how nicely those bodies on these candles came down into that. It's almost like it's designed to do this stuff, isn't it? So really nice run up into a level we were anticipating. They used non-farm payroll to do it. And once it hit that level, we had a breaker, came back in, and then the natural order flow delivers. Like, these are the things that you look for. You don't have to know that it's going to do this part here. Like catching reversals and trying to call turning points against the underlying momentum, that takes a lot of skill. But you don't need that. So if you wait for these obvious events like this, then you step into the market there or there. Notice what I just did there? I gave you the permission to give yourself the permission not to know everything, just the obvious things. Retail doesn't look at that as a sell. They're not looking at that as a sell either. They have no idea what's going on in here. They don't see that. So if you understand the gravity of being still when it's required to be still, that's the most highest probability trade for you right now is to do nothing. Wait for more intel. What are you waiting for? You're waiting for these obvious signatures here and here. I'm not pulling this out because it's something new. You've been taught these things. You know about this level here. You know about this level here. We've been talking about it for months. So if this is likely to occur, and we had the breakdown, this is displacement. Optimal trade entry here with a breaker inside of an imbalance and after the damage has been done on non-farm payroll. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that you should go in here and trade non-farm payroll, but I've also stated that if you ever are going to do non-farm payroll and you want to gamble, you wait for the initial whiplash that takes place in price. And it literally is, like I mentioned in the video before, so it's like an Al-Qaeda terrorist attack, where they take it one way to make it go aggressively harder the other way. Two bombs, basically. One smaller charge to scare everybody running away from it, and they make everybody go to one direction or funnel them into a specific area where a larger bomb or bombs go off and it's more casualties. That's what non-farm payroll does. That's what FOMC generally does. That's what rate announcements do. That's what high impact speeches do, which is the reason why I tell you to respect them. The question came up is, hey, they supposedly added 850,000 jobs, or I don't know, the number is off the top of my head. I think it's close to it, but supposedly they added like 850,000 or 800 some thousand jobs. Now, that would be in normal instances, and also what's expected. If you look at all the calendars, they say generally, an increase in jobs is good for the currency. Well, what happened here? This is what I mentioned before. I don't care about the numbers on non-farm payroll. I don't care about it. We knew about the likelihood of trading up into this area and in consequent encroachment before non-farm payroll ever even traded there. We were talking about it on Sunday, a week ago, and it did it. It did the things that we talked about, or I talked about on Sunday. I didn't need the numbers. I'm looking for the delivery and narrative. So you had supposedly a good number coming out for jobs in the U.S., so why did the dollar tank? Well, look at your chart. It did what we outlined on Sunday. It traded up into this volume imbalance. It hit a level that's completely random and nobody would ever see in their charts. Consequent encroachment of a volume imbalance. Top of the week, breaks down. Here's your trade. Didn't miss that one. Okay, here's the other one. Where's it trading to? Another area of inefficiency that wants to rebalance. Eurodollar, daily chart. We were looking for this buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency to be draw on liquidity for the week. We saw that happen. It went a little bit below that. We'll look at that when we get in lower time frames. But I just want you to appreciate the fact that this pair had really easy delivery on the downside to get to this imbalance. Eurodollar hourly chart. Immediate rebalance here. We talked about that on, I don't know what day it was, but it was an immediate rebalance. And then we drove down to the lower level of that buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. So our discount low. Look at the bodies of the candles. See how they're inside of the blue line here and this blue line here? And then we have that wick that occurs during the non-farm payroll release. So they wick it through it, but this is the bulk of the volume, the bodies. So it went down, basically closed in that imbalance, and then respected it and rallied higher. 15-minute time frame on the euro. Sell side liquidity pool. You watched me trade this if you looked at the previous video. I was looking for a market maker sell model to attack the sell side liquidity here. And what's not in that video, because I don't teach mentorship on public displays with my examples, is that we had the sell side liquidity pool here, yes, but the remaining portion of that daily buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency with the discount low here. So I didn't want to draw any attention to that level, so I had the trade collapse earlier, which was inside of this area here, but you could have used this low minus 5 pips or so and see if you can get this kind of a whipsaw effect. The market rallies, attacks the buy side liquidity here and the buy side liquidity here, as I mentioned in the video prior to this one. But this whole run up in here created this fair value gap. What's next to that fair value gap? Bullish order block. So we have a shift in market structure, a complete run into a discount array, which is the buy side imbalance, sell side efficiency discount low on the daily chart. That's what this level is here, and this is the premium high of that. It fills it in, overshoots it a little bit because of the volatility, but then rallies back above. Buy side's taken, keeps on going. Buy side's taken. We now have a shift in market structure after it completes a run to a discount array. Notice that. This is what we are looking for the week. We are looking for this for the week. So the weekly objective was we were wanting to see this imbalance close in on the daily chart. We got that on non-farm payroll. Then we have this. So what's occurring? The algorithm runs aggressively. What's it doing? It's smashing through all of the premium arrays. So now, once it's up here, what does retail want to do? They want to buy it. What do? We look inside the wake of all of this disruption. And there is your narrative right there. Bullish order block. The algorithm will go back down into that order block. And the fair value gap is your signature. Everything here tips off that it goes to this point. Then what's it going to reach for? Well, what's going to be above that? Buy stops or buy side liquidity. What's resting just above this high? The premium high of that buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency on the daily chart. So this level has its own liquidity as well. Just like it had whipped through the discount low, now the algorithm is going to go back to this high and do the same thing and trade outside of it. So it referred back to these levels, but it whipped through it for liquidity and ran above it on a high end for liquidity. So buying down here, selling here, or buying here and selling up here. Finally, we made it to the British pound versus US dollar or cable. It's our daily chart. Look at that balanced price range. Isn't that awesome? Beautiful example of balanced price range. Then comes up here with a smaller balanced price range, which we'll again revisit when we get in lower time frames. And then we break down below here for immediate rebalance. And then the attacks on Thursday, the short-term swing low here for sell-side liquidity, which is relatively equal lows here. And trading back down ultimately into our last down close candle here, which is a bullish order block on Friday's non-farm payroll, and then trades right back up in. Drop into a hourly chart, and here's that again balanced price range discount low, which is that opening price. I got a question, and the question was, why am I using the opening price of that candle? And what makes that the beginning point of that? Well, it's this one single candle here. How does that one single candle open? It's opening price right there. And then you have this one singular candle here that trades back down through that same range that's defined by this candle's low and this candle's opening. So we have one single pass here and then one single pass there. So in between both of these candles, what's the candle that has traded down to both of these candles' ranges? Lowest here, this candle. So we have a balanced price range, as I mentioned in the previous recording earlier in the week, about this being a balanced price range, and this starts that low end of it. That's the discount low. So extend it out in time, and you hit it right there. So it doesn't need to go back up into this area to rebalance. This isn't a fair value gap that needs to be filled in, is what I'm getting at. That's the essence of why you need to know what a balanced price range is, because it'll keep you from anticipating something that's not likely to fill in or retrade back to. Okay, this is the part that students get frustrated with. They're like, I need you to make this easy to understand. You need to make it in a 5-minute video so that way I understand 3 decades of understanding and be able to do it the first time I watch it. That's not realistic, but that's what the YouTube crowd wants. That's what Telegram people want. That's what Instagrammers want. But you don't get PhD master level results with dollar menu, approaches to teaching. It doesn't work that way. So you have to watch a lot of videos, a lot of theory. You have to study a lot, and you start seeing these things. And that's why I said that you're in a community that's not meant for a 1 year and you're one and done. Like, this is a lifestyle. You want to be a master at this. You want to be able to know exactly what you should be expecting in price action and not have so many surprises. And over time, you're going to find that you're not surprised as much as you were when you first started, because you're indoctrinated. You've been initiated to what smart money is, and you've left the ranks of street money. Okay. I mentioned the bearish order block. It traded up into that. We broke down immediate rebalance. Trades up there. And then we had the consolidation here for buy side liquidity to pull above these relative equal highs. Notice we had the lower high than this one. We broke down. Sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. It comes right back up to the bearish order block and fills in the imbalance. presses in deeper and trades into the order block there during non-farm payroll. And then what happens? It rallies through, and we're going to find it. There's another fair value gap here in the lower time frame that's actually occurring right in here. But you can't really see it. It does come back down almost to an immediate rebalance, but not quite. But look at the 3 down close candles here. That makes up one order block. Opening price, extended through, hammered it. Now, by itself, it's enough, but we're going to refine it and go down into the 15-minute time frame. But this old low also was attacked. So that all the liquidity there and into the order block, and then non-farm payroll sets the stage to run up into this buy-side liquidity pool, which is a low resistance liquidity run signature during non-farm payroll. So it's how you would study it and watch it. And I pretty much outlined that when it was happening in the video you watched prior to this one. All right, and finally, the 15-minute time frame. Buy-side liquidity here. This fair value gap, we're going to come back to that in a minute. So all this here is a market maker buy model. So it's original consolidation. We break down smart money reversal, low risk buy. I'm not saying that non-farm payroll was low risk, but I'm just saying for the sake of going in and journaling, and I got another question also, will there ever be a time when journaling isn't going to be as intense and that we should spend more time doing other things? You should find more time to journal, because that's where your epiphanies are going to occur. Your understanding is going to be greatly enhanced because of the practice and application of journaling. Because it's like anything else. If you watch a movie and you really enjoyed watching that movie, and maybe you watched it a few times, like there are some movies that I've literally watched hundreds of times. I'm a fan of certain movies and certain genres, and I'll watch them like I know the back of my hand what they're going to say. I know the sounds of the score behind it, the music's playing. I know all those things because I've watched it, and because I'm obsessively compulsive, I'm not bored by watching it because it's something I'm interested in, and I like all the little subtle nuances. Whereas if I watch something twice with my wife, she's like, I got to get out of here. I've already seen this movie. Well, when you're watching price action and you're gleaning more understanding over time by journaling, your experience is greatly enhanced because of the repetitive nature of journaling, and you get deeper into it. Whereas anyone else would say, well, I'm bored with this. Show me a new trick, ICT. Show me something new. Give me a new trick. Well, how much money are you making with what I've already taught you? Because if you haven't found a way to be profitable in YouTube teachings, and you're here wanting to be give me another teaching, give me another lesson, give me a new trick, give me a new smart money gadget, you are caught up in the cycle of constantly seeking another approach to trading. You're just not being honest with yourself. You're in that loop that just keeps going around and around and around. And I could literally give you dozens of things each week, and you're just going to want something else. You want to be entertained. You don't want to say it like that, and you don't want to internalize it that way. But I'm telling you, with no sugar added, that's what it is. So if you're finding yourself wanting to get to the next topic in the video, or the meat of the teaching, get to the sauce, ICT, okay? You're the problem. It's not me. It's the person listening. They want certain things, and they're refusing the logic that's required for them to find the consistency that are originally signing up for. At least that's what the expectation should have been. But by studying things through journaling and identifying things that repeat over and over and over again, and you'll also remember me saying certain things in certain videos, but then other videos, you'll swear I went back and edited the video and added something to it. Because your ears are perked up. Because, hey, I've heard him say this before, or I've now seen something in the chart that feels like a personal epiphany. And this is also what's been happening over the last couple months. Students have emailed me and said, hey, look, I think I found something. And tell me what you think about this. And I'm like, yeah, that's model number 5 as a charter. We've already went through that. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize you said that. Right. Your subconscious heard it, and you started going through the charts like you're supposed to, and then you saw something. But because you don't remember me saying it, you are immediately feeling like deja vu, which is really just your brain seeing something, processing it, storing it as a memory, and then you're really immediately recalling that memory. So it feels like you've done it before, when it's just your brain in a super active state where you see it, remember it, you create a memory, and now you're thinking about it like it's happened months or years before. That's deja vu. Well, some of you are having deja vu development points in your growing here, and you're hearing something in the video, and your subconscious is retaining it. It's kind of like, the reticular activated system, where it is feeling like everybody bought the same car you did. You just brought the car home, and all of a sudden on the way home, you saw 12 of them. You're like, man, what is this? Everybody's doing the same thing I'm doing now? No, those cars were out there, but you are now sensitive to that car because it means something to you because you own it. You love that car. You have an affinity for that car. So now your brain is looking for that car all the time. Well, if you listen to the videos and you study them and you write down things, questions that you have about that video that I say, or certain things that I say, some of you that are impatient immediately want to write me emails and then say, hey, I wrote you an email 8 weeks ago and I ain't got a response yet. I thought you were supposed to be a mentor. Yeah, I told you before you joined that you're supposed to be keeping a study journal, and I'm not going to be able to answer every single email and every single question because I already know that 98% of it's going to be answered if you just simply listen to the video and take notes. It's a progressive thing where you go through the next content. It feeds on itself. I know what you're going to ask me based on the things I'm teaching at the time, like right now. So you're wanting me to talk about why is this fair value gap being drawn over here? What's the significance of that? Well, I'm getting to it. But when we had this imbalance here, it trades down into that and then rallies higher. And then it starts to build a consolidation right in here at a random level where there was an imbalance. So what's occurring here? Sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. So when this candle passed down through, all the way through to here, and then we had the next candle trade up here, this had an imbalance, mainly sell side, and it was inefficiently offered for buy side. So how does this have to get rebalanced? It needs to trade up into it. Now, is it balanced at that point? No. No, it's not. It trades too quickly on the downside. So it's sell side imbalance. It's imbalanced because it offered too fast of movement lower. Now, if it's moving too quickly on the downside, the algorithm knows this, so it needs to do what? It has to rebalance that. Now, what does that mean? Not to pick on Chris Laurie or be taking this out of context. I'm not trying to pick on him or be mean or disrespectful, but he'll teach you that coming back up to that, filling that in, that's rebalancing. That's not rebalancing. That's redelivery. That's not rebalancing. That's redelivery. So the imbalance here, then we have redelivery. It's candles that are going up into that range. It's balanced when you have down candles inside of that range. Okay, so in other words, we trade back up into it. That's redelivery. Rebalance when there's down candles inside that range again. See that? There. That's rebalanced. That's why the algorithm starts to go higher. That's why I'm the only one who teaches like this. Because I know what's going on. I know how it's coded. It's the way it is, folks. So when you're looking for these fair value gaps or imbalances, it isn't filling in one and done. It's showing you something that is important going forward. Remember, you're learning about the IPTA data ranges. You have the 20, 40, 60 day look back. Then you have the 20, 40, 60 day cast forward. So whenever you have an imbalance like this, you have to cast that same range 20, 40, 60 days in the future. It will still be likely to be used that far ahead. Now, I just simply made all of your confusion about IPTA data ranges of no concern now. That's all it is. You're looking for a range. Okay, when does this fair value gap really expire? To me, 60 days later. Period. You're going to have a ton of lines on your chart if you think that you're going to have to look at every single one of them. Okay, there's an art form to this. There's a little bit of personal touch that you're going to have to bring to it, and that is going to be by experience. And I know some of you want to be able to answer the question of how many lines and how do I keep the one fair value gap on the chart that's going to work and all the fair value gaps that aren't. That's narrative. That's me outlining all this stuff down here in the day of the week when it happened, the fact that it traded down here because of non-farm payroll. You see how all these pieces, you have to know all of these pieces individually. And then once you have the individual components vaguely understood, then I teach you narrative. Narrative is, this is what your puzzle pieces should make the image of. If they're put in the right place, this is what it looks like. And then it's your job to pick up these individual pieces and place them in their proper location on your timing, not mine. And your timing has to be in sync with what the market is doing based on the skill zones and the delivery of the daily range and the weekly range and the monthly range. So there's a lot of balancing, but there's a lot of learning that you have to do. And you have to submit to it. And it's not easy and it's not fun, but guess what, man? There's nothing like this once you get it. And some of you are having amazing strides of development, lots of epiphanies, the aha moments. Some of you haven't had yours yet. That's normal. It doesn't mean that you're lesser of a student. It doesn't mean someone else in here is better than you. It just means that it just happened for them. It will happen for you. You just got to keep doing the things I tell you to do and don't do the things I tell you not to do. But the market delivers back into this imbalance here and then rebalances when there's down candles in it. Then we have the displacement on the outside. Immediate rebalance right here. See that? We leave the fair value gap there. The opening of this candle, immediate rebalance to this candle there. Immediate rebalance, then run. So if you're watching this live and it trades down to there, we're not looking at, coming back down to this level by itself. If there's a candle high here, that would be enough for me to key in on a entry live, just as it smacks into it right there. And then you would expect what? Because it's an immediate rebalance, then you should have a sharp, immediate response that the price should start going higher. Because the premise is this: you left the fair value gap, the next candle opens here, and then immediately starts to go down. By seeing that go down, and it goes back to this candle's high, that's an immediate rebalance. Think about the name I gave it: immediate rebalance. So now it quickly rebalances because it doesn't want to come back to this. Well, in the next couple candles, to put it that way, it doesn't want to come back down to this right away. It doesn't want to keep it as an open fair value gap either, something like this. So it's coming back down immediately to do what? Reprice higher. Where's it going to reach price to? Relative equal highs, buy sell liquidity. Boom. So I gave you all kinds of stuff in this video. I probably talked about things that probably bored you or got under your skin, irritated you. But as a trader, as a mentor, as someone that is watching the world stage, these are things that are on my mind. And I would be less of a mentor if I wasn't honest with you and told you these things are what I'm concerned about. My concerns may be misplaced. None of these things might not ever become a factor. And praise God if that's what happens. But if it does, I'm not going to be shocked. I'm not going to be put in a state of fear. It's not going to disrupt my analysis concepts. Okay? It's already has my concepts on high alert. Where, what am I doing? The trade is stillness. Have you seen a theme here since you've been here? I have a pretty good track record of knowing when to be active and when not to be active. That's the experience that 30 years almost lends me. And you have the benefit of having that. Where everybody else is, go, 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 baby. Trade, trade, trade. Everything's got to be melting down. Everything's going to be exploding to the moon. It's all this excitement, exaggerated expectations. I'm trying to be a voice of reason and give you what's going to happen before it happens. I'm guiding you and navigating this with you live every single week, every single day. I'm giving you some kind of a takeaway where you're going to grow on a personal level to do this by yourself. And it's going to take you decades to get this good. No one's going to be able to say, oh yeah, I did it in record time. Because there's too many things that you need to learn and how that fits with your personality. I know how to do long-term trading. I could be just as precise as I am with these lower time frames with a daily and weekly and monthly chart. I just don't have the patience to let that stuff pan out. Like, to me, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time and my attention, because I can take my time and devote it to a 60-minute chart and do what the average person can do in a month. And you're going to learn that here. You're going to learn that. But before you can do those Olympic-style feats, you have to learn how to crawl, then stand, then walk, and then also tolerate falling down. And realizing that just because you fell down and got a boo-boo, bruised yourself, or maybe even broke your leg, things tend to mend. And does a baby that falls and hurts itself when it falls and cries and has a tantrum, does it lose its interest in wanting to walk? No. It pisses it off and it wants to get up and run now. It wants to do the next thing. That's what you should be doing here. Anytime you have a setback and you feel like you're not getting something, or if you have a result that's not what you were hoping for, let it motivate you. Not into revenge, but let it motivate you that, hey, look, I'm not quitting. I'm going to do this, because I quit dozens of times. I called it quitting, but it was me just forcing myself to take a break, because I was already bitten by the bug, and I would never be able to throw this away and do something else. Like, I can't imagine doing anything else. So you have to grab onto that like a pit bull on a pork chop and simply say, I don't care, hell or high water, as long as there's markets and I have my mental faculties, I'm going to be in these markets one way, shape, or form, and I'm going to master myself, and I'm going to master the markets. Period. There's no other alternative. And if you have that resolve, that tenacity, you'll be in the right state of mind for the rest of your career. And you need that. You need to be able to say, I don't need someone to pat me on the back, and I don't need anybody to say, you'll be okay. You know you'll be okay, because you're learning rule-based ideas. Look at the market, folks. Seriously. Strip away the times when when I'm honest to you and say, I don't know. I'm waiting for more information. And once I get that information, it's like Swiss timepiece precision. No one can argue with that. And it's not a bragging. I'm not beating my chest. I'm just saying that some of you that are new here might not notice that. And it's my job as your mentor to remind you, you've been with me now. Well, you're going into your 6th month. So you've been with me for almost a half a year now. You have seen periods where I don't know, and it doesn't break anything. And then you know when I'm on side and I know what it's likely to do, how next to perfect it is. There's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be these times in your own development and in your own trading without ICT at your side that you need to simply say, I'm going to sit still. I need more information. And that permission needs to be given to yourself early on. The sooner you give yourself that permission, the better you're going to be as a trader, the better you're going to be equipped to deal with the navigation in these marketplaces when it's uncertain. Now, there's always a level of uncertainty that as a trader, we all have to embrace that. But there's this kind of uncertainty where, okay, this is a totally different level of uncertainty. So I need to wait and see, what does the market do now? Because at this moment, I don't know. Because generally, not all the time, but generally, non-farm payrolls sets the stage for the monthly range that is basically like the monthly Judas swing. But we're in the month of July now. So July and August are like the heart of summer doldrums. Now, normally, they're lackluster. They have price swings, but they're not as pure. They're not clean. They're not just really, well, obvious. It's a little choppy sometimes, and sometimes it gets stagnant and doesn't do a whole lot, and it has these little sputters where something will cause a little bit of excitement. Everybody else wants to jump on it, but that's when it goes quiet again. That's the summer doldrums. That's what I'm trying to describe to you. But because of all the things that's going on around the world, we may not get a standard summer doldrum. We might get an animated summer, which, hey, I'm welcoming that. Bring it in. Whatever. It makes my job easier as your mentor because I got a lot more things to talk about. But respect the likelihood that we probably won't get that. Okay? And if it's a normal summer in terms of delivery of volatility, you need to dial back your expectations and then go back into wanting to see more expansion and volatility going into September, mid-September going into October. That's usually the natural order of things where we have that fall excitement going into the end of the year. So I'm trying to like seed your expectations and prep you on what I'm expecting and what you as a trader should expect. But also, you know, when we get these landmines, you know, that come up once in a while, I'll teach you how to deal with that and navigate the new troublesome things that may be in front of us. And I've shared them in this video tonight. It doesn't matter if you subscribe to it or believe these things. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to twist your arm and say, see it my way. I'm your cult leader. You know, if you don't see things my way, then you're a fool. That's not what I'm saying. I'm giving you what I am spending my time investigating, trying to get intel in and trying to getting closer to what might happen. And you're probably thinking, what resources am I using to do that? I'm just reading the headlines. I'm not reading newspapers or watching TV. I'm just watching the headlines. Watching the headlines is kind of like fortune telling with a cheat code. Like it literally is like knowing the future, because once you understand that the media is predictive programming, they're laying down seed of things that they're going to be able to call on with future articles and events that you're going to feel like, oh, I knew this was going to happen, because they've conditioned you to expect it. So therefore, what happens? You feel like you're empowered because you've watched their news. So it creates this dependency, this codependency, and it rewards you subconsciously. That makes you feel like you're smart when you're actually a fool for believing the nonsense that they put out. So I'm watching the headlines to see how they're steering the populace at large and trying to control their thoughts. Because that's what programming, that's what TV programs are. They're programming your perception and expectations. So that way, all the good sheep expect the government's going to protect them. They're going to protect the average person. And just look at every time we have a disaster, that doesn't happen. And we are looking at some pretty crazy things coming. Like, folks, it's going to become science fiction level nuts. Like, it's going to be nuts. And the faster you get yourself expecting craziness and just doing what you got to do to prepare for it, it's going to be easier for you. It's going to be like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. We've been expecting this. And it's going to be uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean that you are personally going to come to an end. Okay? So it's a balancing of stress. That's all it is. I'm preparing you for heightened levels of stress. And if I desensitize you to it now, if it does occur, it won't be so impactful to you, and you won't be bogged down worrying about things and not practicing and engaging in what you're supposed to be doing while you're here. Okay, so it's just a management of your expectations on my part. In a way, it's kind of like what I just explained TV programming is. It's predictive, programming. Like I'm preparing you to see these things and not be freaked out. That's all I'm doing. I'm giving you the smart money perspective of how they're seeing, like all these things are being engineered for the purpose of control and profit. But if you watch everything and keep the perspective of what the news medias will have you think, you're always on the opposite end. Like you were always counterparty to smart money. That's where they want to keep everybody. And it doesn't matter if everybody doesn't trade. If they keep it like that, even the people that don't trade will talk about it at the water cooler at work. And that fuels the people that do have the money or the resolve that want to speculate, and they're going to do the wrong things because, hey, Joe was talking about that stock, or Kim was talking about buying Eurodollar because this, that, and the other thing. Man, what if she makes money? I can't have her doing that and me miss the opportunity. Or she's broke, she ain't got any money. I'm going to be doing that trade, and I'm going to be smarter than her or him or whatever. And it feeds itself. And when you start to take a step back and look at it, you probably were in these types of things, in your own life, falling victim to that stuff. And then when it didn't pan out, you're like, it's a scam. Yeah, you got scammed. And what got you there? Listening to the TV or listening to people that watch the TV. Okay? All of that herd mentality is cultivated through TV programming. That's why I do not watch TV. I have about 30 different screens in my house. Okay? And I don't sit down in front of the news and watch any of them for that. That's it. I will put a video in that's a movie, or I will watch a Bible study, something like that, or we'll watch old recordings of our children. But I'm not sitting down, plopping myself in front of Fox News, CNN, CNBC. I'm not looking at any of that garbage. I'm not doing it. Once in a while, I'll go on CNBC to get a view or interpretation of what I think the public sentiment might be. But I'm not getting a steady diet of that. I get that public sentiment reading from forums and in social media. And you saw what I've been able to do with that with some of the kings in this industry. So with that, folks, I'm going to wish you a very pleasant weekend for those in the States that are celebrating the independence. And if you're like me, American, we'll be celebrating our independence. No hate towards the folks on the other side of the pond. I still love you. It's nothing personal, but just be on alert for anything that pops up, because we had some really crazy stuff. Buildings falling down in Florida. I think that we're going to start seeing a lot of that stuff in Florida. Crazy things in Florida and in Texas. And I was just saying to my wife the other day, and I know I'm keeping on going and bringing up more stuff, but we contemplated moving to, well, let me rephrase that. Let's be honest here. I contemplated buying property out in South Dakota because it had the lowest COVID crap, 300 people or so, and the hospital deemed them COVID. But they never forced the mask mandate. They never upheld any of the close your business down stuff. Like they just kept things as normal. And they thrived. So there was flights going in and out of that state. Why didn't COVID take over there? It didn't happen. It's Republican led, and those folks up there seem to have a brain. I mentioned that it's probably a good idea to maybe buy some real estate up there in case things get screwy. We can roll up there and wait it out there. And I was literally in the market looking for homes this morning there. And Biden Newswire came across saying that, there's a ban on the fireworks at Mount Rushmore. Well, to me, it just feels like that's bullying. And come on, we're outside. COVID's not going to get you from a firework going off in the sky. California's doing bans, traveling to states. They're saying that it's the LGBT community that's being attacked or harassed or, having some kind of hardships placed on them. But take that aside, move it aside. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist or doesn't go on, but that goes on everywhere, not just in specific states. It's these states that are resisting this administration, which is Texas and Florida. So California's coming out saying, oh, well, we're banning travel. You can't do it. Look, at some point, this type of stuff is going to come to a head. And if you know real history, American history, the Civil War wasn't really about slavery. It was about the states governing themselves. That's the reality. I have old history books that you can't even buy anymore. And this is stuff that we were taught in schools that my children don't even know. Like, they have opposing views of what real history was. And it's shocking to see how dumbed down public schools and even homeschooling curriculums tried to indoctrinate children. And it's madness. It's madness what is really taking place. So in closing, I'm just going to say this. Trump has come out and said he's made a decision. And to me, it doesn't sound like it's definitive in any way, but he laced it with, he doesn't want to do it. It's not fun, but he has to. So does that mean he's running? I don't know. Does it mean he's not running? I don't know. Me personally, if I were him, I wouldn't do it. But take a step back for a moment. I know some of you don't believe there was any fraud in the election, but there's absolutely fraud. The whole narrative is going to start ramping up. Okay? They're going to start this whole deviant strain, which supposedly is running wild in India. All this stuff is going to find its way in the U.S. These ideas of, the next wave. And everyone that has taken the vaccine isn't protected by the new deviant strain. Now, my interpretation of that is the people with the vaccination are going to get sick. And these folks are going to fall to the deviant strain. And the original vaccination protection can't be faulted because it's a new virus. Keep getting your vaccines that won't protect you from the deviant strain, but those that have taken the vaccination will eventually fall sick. And that will be the real thing where people will probably be in public situations and people will be falling ill visibly in front of people. And then there it is. And that being on TV is going to scare the living hell out of everyone. And that's how you get control of everyone. And then when they say, you better take this shot because if you don't get this one, you're all dying. Remember back in 2019, on Twitter, I said, you remember that scene from the 1970s movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Where they tried to come up with a way to scare everybody away from that mountain area. And they said, look, we got to come up with something that will scare the living hell out of every living Christian soul. And they came up with a nerve gas. And it made everybody think that, that all the animals were dying, the whole thing. And I said that they're going to do something to that extent because they have to do something to scare everyone into submission. Because look what they did at September 11th. That wasn't terrorists doing that. I don't tell you. It's obvious. It's obvious what took place then. And we're seeing that scare tactic getting ready to rev up because they have to make it impossible for in-person voting again. The whole thing with Newsom in California, you're ready to do the recall election, and they're insisting that they have to have time to verify the signatures. Well, wait a minute. I thought that was voter suppression when we were trying to verify signatures with the 2020 election. You see there's a conflict of interest there, isn't it? So when you take a step back and you start looking at all these things, it's so obvious what they're getting prepared to do. Because if Trump is talking about getting back out on the campaign trail. Well, we got to come up with a way that we can't have any of those rallies anymore. So you can't have what? Public displays of people coming together, because the deviant strain is waiting for you. Just like COVID knows how to attack at a certain height. You can go into a restaurant, you can eat with your mask off, you can walk around, but you have to have your mask on, but it only attacks you at a certain height. Come on. But that's what they have done. They have literally divided everybody on this planet to either the masked or the unmasked. And it's so bad. It's worse than black and white racism. Now, I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm saying, look at it. It's madness now. You better put a mask on, because they've scared these people into believing that anybody that doesn't wear a mask is trying to kill them. But if they have the vaccine, why are they worrying about it? They should be protected. The whole thing was to cause division. That's all it is. And this division is going to mount up and build up pressure and build up momentum, and it's going to pour out into everyone's streets. Wait till you see what happens in the UK in August and September. If these things that is looking like they're going to come down, you can't go anywhere unless you have proof of the vaccination. You can't go shopping. You can't go to restaurants. You can't go to theaters. You can't do any of these things. So they're not going to say it's a lockdown where everybody stays in their house and they can't go anywhere. They're saying you better take this jab. And if you don't, you can't be a part of this. So it's the fear of missing out of normalcy that's going to push people into taking something that's not a medicine. And it will eventually cause planned problems, I believe. I'm not suggesting that I know everything, but I believe that's what's happening. And I may be a crackpot in some of your eyes, many of your eyes, because of that. But I can live with myself. Okay, I'm okay with it. And whether you subscribe to that view or not doesn't change my opinion of it. But I'm not going to live my life with a scarf across my face. And if they tell me I can't come in their facility because of me not being approved, I took a vaccination that ain't even medicine, I don't need to patronize that place. I got everything I would ever need in my home. Like, I can literally do whatever I want here, and I'm not cramped up. And I don't need to do it in this house. I can do it at the other ones. So you're going to see the reaction to people and what they're willing to put up with. And this time it's going to get bloody. They're going to be doing things that are going to require a strong arm response to those that say we're not going to comply. And how you guys across the pond deal with that should and if it occurs, and it certainly looks like it's likely to occur, is how the rest of the world, Canada and the U.S., is going to follow suit and do basically what y'all are going to do. But here we got guns. Here we have people that can't wait to do it. They can't wait to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do it. And it's going to be an interesting show. And a lot of people around the world are just waiting to see the strong, patriot, country-loving folks that here in the U.S. that have weapons and say, no, you're not going to do this. Like, a lot of those types of people have put up with a lot of things that our founding fathers would have never done. But there's the other half of our community here in the U.S. that have this, you better do what the government says, or you're a terrorist, or you're this, or you're that. And they have created this hostility between the two. So the government is really pulling the strings on trying to cause such a social divide that it creates the problem so it can ring in the solution, which is martial law. I was thinking that Trump was going to probably do martial law, and he didn't do any of it. But I see this administration, look at D.C. right now. It's It's crazy out there. You could just see madness spilling into the streets and them saying, okay, it's martial law. Think about it. They're not the oppressor in that situation. If they create all these things that cause all this in the United States, that is a concern of mine. And they end up looking like they have to do it. I mean, what else can they do? They have to institute martial law. And then what happens at the election if there's martial law? There is no election. Science fiction, folks. May not ever happen. I could be completely off base and, conjecture city here. That's all it is. But, like, I'm literally engaged in studying what everything is likely to do and what is likely not to do in terms of the next shoe dropping. But that's, that's what I'm watching. That's what I'm concerned about, and how it might impact me as a trader, the markets themselves, and also, more importantly, the sentiment of other traders. Like, how will traders see a countrywide uproar in the UK over here in the States? We'll be like, wow, go get them. Stand up for your rights. Do what you got to do. And then flip the script. I can see, and I talk to everyone outside the U.S. that is watching. What are we doing? Like, we're all expected to be rising up and saying, "The hell with this." We're not going to tolerate that. We're not seeing that. They're not seeing it, but they know there is a large group of American citizens that are well armed, that are chomping at the bit for a 1776 moment. And I'm not saying that it should happen. I'm not saying that I'm going to be out there doing anything like that. I'm just stating the facts that everybody around the world's watching us. And our enemies know that we are in a weakened state right now. It's just ripe. It's the right time. The iron's hot. And if any nation wanted to come at us right now, or when it gets a little bit worse, is probably the best time, because we're so distracted and weakened as a nation that it would be perfect. And I've said this to my friends and family. I literally see weapons being dropped on mainland. Like, I can see it coming. And it might be just a wild imagination. It's not wishful thinking, I can assure you, but it's something that will literally scare the living daylights out of every American, and me included. Like, how would you react to a small tactical nuke being implemented in your town or your state? You'd be freaking out. Think about it. The people that are trying to control and gain power like they are, they don't have rules. They don't have any of those limitations. If you're in the way, you're a bug. They'll drop a whole building to get rid of every bit of the evidence, and they don't care how many people's in that building. And they don't care if it's being recorded, and they don't care if you're the president and you say you're going to expose them. They will blow your brains out in front of everybody watching all around the world. That's the people that's in control and trying to get and maintain more control. And nobody can compete against that. Like, there's no one nation, there's no government body, there's no President Trump, there's no president in the future coming that's going to be able to stand against that stuff. And that's what sets up the end times. So when you have these things occurring, it's hard not to get excited in a way where, we're going to see some real animation, not just locally in the States, but y'all over and across the pond, you're going to have your fun first, probably. And we'll be watching your response to that. If you haven't prepped, if you haven't got your house in order, getting supplies and things, you probably should start doing that. And I'm going to toss this out there one more time as a reminder. If you're trying to save money to open up a trading account, you probably aren't going to be able to save enough money fast enough to get to an account size that would be as meaningful to you if you already knew how to trade. So if you have cash, listen to me, okay? Really listen to me. I'm going to close the video here because I've already spent way too much time, but I've not been able to talk to you. So I want to be able to cut loose and say what's on my mind. And in this area, I feel a little bit more comfortable because I won't do it on any social media stuff. You should take the cash that you have, or if you can charge up a little bit of credit but not go nuts with it, get your house prepared. Get some canned good foods, some bottled water, water filters, household supplies, things that you would use on a normal day basis, laundry detergents, lighting. If you go out and find that the power goes out, anything that makes those types of environments or conditions a little bit more tolerable, do it. And just prepare. Just be prepared to be uncomfortable should things happen. And if you have a way of defending yourself, finding a way to get tools and resources, and you know what I'm talking about, now's the time to do it. Because they're going to be making it more difficult eventually if these things are going to happen. And then you just relax. And you're probably saying, well, I'm hoping to have this money to open up an account to trade. If you learn here how to trade, you do not need your own money. You don't need that. There's so many ways for people to get funded now. And I have students reporting to me and they're proving it. They're giving their certificate, they're showing me accounts and their payouts. So by all surface, looking at it from outside in, like I'm not there doing it. I've never done it personally. But they're all co-signing, saying, look, I opened it up. I did their test, their challenge. I beat it using the things that you taught here in the mentorship. And now I'm funded. I got $20,000. I got $50,000. I have a $100,000 account. You can get that rather quickly, folks. How long will it take you to save $20,000? Some of you probably wouldn't be able to do that in years. It'd probably take you 20 years to save something like that. And that's humble. I started humble. But right now, if you have the means to do so, please just do what you can to get at least 6 months worth of food, water, over-the-counter medications that you would normally have. And if you have prescriptions, just try to get your doctor to work with you and give you an extra month or two if it's possible. You probably won't get it, but asking is the only way you're going to know. And it's always no until you ask. And just trust the fact that once you learn how to do this, there are lots of people out there that will throw money at you. And you don't need to have all these concerns about I want to save up money, I want to grow my account real fast to get money so I can quit my job. Look, if you know how to trade and you get funded with $100,000, you won't need to work. Okay? Think about it. Do the math. Okay? Like, you all have opportunities that I didn't have, but you're trying to rush too fast to get out of the problem or the uncomfortable position you're in right now. I'm warning you, for everybody, myself included, it's going to get really uncomfortable here in the next 6 to 18 months. It's going to get really uncomfortable. So pour all your attention into preparing your home and your family, and then study. Because this skill set, you will find ways to put food in your belly with this. I promise you, it will not be wasted. It will not be wasted effort. It will not be wasted money. But if you don't buy things that prepare your home and your family, you are asking for failure, because you're going to see and feel stress like you've never had if this stuff does happen, even on a small scale. So be a good steward with your money. Be a good steward with your responsibilities as a head of your family. And if you have children, think about that. What type of supplies do you need? And try to build into that. Maybe you have an infant now. I had a lot of students that ended up getting pregnant because lockdowns, there's lockdown babies now. So think about, you got to buy diapers, right? Well, don't just buy the diapers that you're using now. Think about, well, if this does go a little bit longer than you'd want it to, buy the next couple things up in sizes of diapers. It's things like that, just preparing. You're going to use these things. You're not wasting the money. You just won't have to go out as soon to get it. You'll have it. It's insurance that you're going to use, and you'll be glad that you're using it, unlike paying for fire insurance, home insurance, and car insurance, where you don't want the experience to have to use that insurance. Like that's a problem. If you have to use the insurance, there was a problem there. This is just preparing your house and your own life for a likelihood that might not happen, but if it doesn't, it's things that you're going to use anyway. And it's just insurance for peace of mind. Period. There's always a way to make money. And I'm going to teach you lots of ways to make money. But you have to learn how to do certain things in the beginning. And these are skill sets that the average person won't have. And they're willing to pay for. And you'll have that skill set. Think about how many people's on this planet. They're all going to be looking for a way to make money because their jobs won't be available. The people that do have money, they're going to be screaming for people that, hey, we need someone that can manage risk. And you'll be there to raise your hand. So with that, folks, enjoy your weekend, be safe, and I'll touch base with you on Monday.